Happy New Year everyone, and today we are going to be discussing, are smartphones just getting boring now? Let's get into it. The reason why I want to make this video is because the S24 Ultra is coming out very soon. There's rumours to be coming out in about 2 weeks time. I've been seeing some of the rumours and the leaks and everyone's getting excited about the screen being flat and the titanium sides. But other than that, the phone is saying very much the same slab design we've had for a while, and to me, it just doesn't seem like a very big change. It's been the same with the iPhones, Google Pixels. It's been the same with most of the Android phones in the space, and it's been the same in the space quite recently where phones have just stayed the same, it saves costs, it keeps things similar, and it keeps brand identity. But people have been discussing, are smartphones just getting boring? And we've got to ask the question, is the rectangle design boring? Now, yes, it is boring, but it does serve a purpose. Number one, it works very well, and it's also what people are very familiar to. That's why foldable phones bought something new, because it was in a similar form factor to what we had, the nice slab rectangle design, but it also brought in a nice bigger screen that we could all use. Because obviously we like big phones, we like having a bigger screen because we want to be able to see TikTok, YouTube, and if we're filming any videos or photos, we want to be able to see that on the biggest screen possible. People just didn't want to have to carry around these massive slab phones. So I think as an industry, everyone's decided that 6.7, 6.8 inches is the best size for a phone to get to. Now, every single phone is trying to compete to get to the bezel-less future without any hole punch cameras or any dynamic islands. And yeah, that is kind of what's going on in the industry at the moment, and the rectangle design is honestly the most iconic one. Where I think the downfall happened is because when we're at the bleeding edge of smartphones, when they were brand new and there was this brand new technology, everything was happening so fast, we were spoiled with too much too quickly, and people just expected every year for these massive changes to happen. You think, from the iPhone 4 to the iPhone 5, massive changes. We had a bigger screen, a better looking screen, a bigger phone, aluminium back, a better camera, and all of that happened in just one generation. Now, if we look at something like the iPhone 12 to the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14 to the iPhone 15, it's all the same other than incremental changes. The design hasn't changed much. There hasn't been any amazing outstanding features other than 120 Hz and USB-C, which would have previously been in one refresh. So that's why a lot of people don't understand why smartphones are just having such a small incremental upgrade. Now, in previous years, it was looked down upon to just have camera upgrades, and every company was trying to compete to have a massive new feature. So Samsung brought in the Edge screen and iPhones brought in 3D Touch. Now this was trying to be the next big thing, and every company was trying to scram in little features to try and get people to buy the new phones and to make it a worthy generational upgrade. Now this was okay back in the day when companies were experimenting with features, but people want features that are going to stay on their phone for the rest of the life, basically, because if you take away a feature that a lot of people use, it tends to annoy a lot of people. That's why when they removed 3D Touch, a lot of people were annoyed because a lot of people did use 3D Touch. It just wasn't implemented very well. But that being said, all these massive changes had to happen because innovation was at its bleeding edge, and it just meant that smartphones, got very good very quickly. But that's not a bad thing to say. And smartphones today have some incremental upgrades that are trying to make them the best possible thing that they can be. Camera upgrades, because everyone uses cameras on social media now. Everyone wants to have a good looking social media picture and wants to have something that looks acceptable for their friends, for people to look at. And it's not so much about now, oh yeah, we're going to take a picture. It's about, how does the lighting look? Do I look good? How is my dress, or how is my clothing? How is my hair being reflected in my camera? That is everything that people are looking for now to try and make the best social media picture possible. So now people do want the camera upgrades, and it's not looked down upon to have those. So yeah, being spoilt too much too quickly, it did help people's conception of smartphones at first, but now people have got used to smartphones having small incremental upgrades. It's going to take a while for people to get used to, but that is just what's going to happen. Number 3, the iPhone. The iPhone hasn't changed very much since, I'd say, the iPhone 11 generation. So we've had the same looking design since the iPhone 11, other than the phone being changed to a more slab design like the iPhone 5. Now, this was obviously necessary to make everything in the phone fit easier, and rounded corners isn't the easiest thing to fit square components into. But it did mean that that was the one big thing that they changed, and it also meant that now, every single upgrade we've had has just been basically the camera lens on the back getting bigger, the notch getting smaller, and also 120 Hz and USB-C. Now, the iPhone 15 series and the iPhone 15 Pro have two different things. If we look back on the iPhone 14 didn't get the dynamic island, but the iPhone 14 Pro did. Now, if we look this year, we also found that the iPhone 15 got the dynamic island, and we found that the iPhone 15 Pro got the USB-C at higher speeds. Now, this was very, very looked down upon in terms of community and was making people curious. Now, Apple has started doing a thing where they keep the previous generation chip on the regular iPhones, and they give the Pro series phones better, more powerful chips. The reason why I don't think they gave fast USB-C to the iPhone 15 series is because the A17 Pro that powers the iPhone 15 Pro has the USB-C controller in it, whereas the iPhone 15 with the A16 Bionic only has a USB 2.0 controller because it's used to having Lightning. So that's why that happened. But if we look at all the different changes that have happened over the couple of years, it always tends to be that now Apple make the regular phones get the features the next generation after, and the Pro phones get everything first. So that just means that Apple are trying to keep stuff exciting on the regular phones to make sure that they're not giving everyone everything too much first, because otherwise people are expecting too much. They're expecting to get things that they can't always get. And now with the iPhone 16 being rumoured, it's rumoured to be going back to the iPhone 12 design in terms of cameras, so that the cameras will be back to being horizontal. Does this mean that Apple have run out of ideas and they're just trying to switch it up? No, this actually does have a good feature change. So this is for Apple Vision Pro, and so that you can record 3D video, because Apple are very much leaning into Apple Vision Pro being the future of technology. So that is why that's happening. It's not because Apple have run out of ideas or they're trying to make you buy a new phone. No, that's not what's happening at all. It is just Apple trying to make sure that you can film spatial video even if you want to. Number 4, Android phones. They have also not changed very much. If we look at the Samsung Galaxy S20 to the S24, not much has changed. We saw with the S21, it brought in this design where it was just the cameras separated and the nice slab back and the nice slab screen at the front. Now, this design has stayed, and Samsung have been notorious for changing designs constantly, but this hasn't happened. And honestly, it's a massive surprise because a lot of people expect better from Samsung. They expect them to be changing everything every year, taking away features, bringing in new features. And I think Samsung realized that that's not what their target wanted. What they were targeting was people that wanted a phone that was powerful, that was for enthusiasts, and that gave the best camera quality possible. Now, Android phones have always been ones that change drastically every year. But the main companies like Samsung, like Google, have not been doing that anymore. If we look at the Google Pixel 6 and compared to the Google Pixel 8, not much has changed within those generations, other than the famous bar across the top with the cameras has changed ever so slightly each year. But it's so that we can recognise these companies and their brand identity. Because every phone from the front is starting to look so similar, because it's just pushing bezels closer and closer to the edge. Every company is trying to get their own brand identity and trying to get every single phone that they make to look recognisable. The Google Pixel design is very recognisable. Samsung's design is very recognisable. And the iPhone's design is iconic. So everyone recognises these different designs just based off their companies. So it is working and it is why they do it. Number 5. Now, I've touched on this already, but it's camera improvements. Everyone used to look down on camera improvements and said they were a bad thing and say that, oh, this company's run out of ideas. And yeah, camera improvements were very much looked down upon before, but now they are a thing of glory. Everyone is hoping that they can get a new good camera improvement that makes social media picture taking all the while better. And people honestly hope for it. Every year people hope that the iPhone's going to get 8K, is going to get this new amazing HDR feature that makes colours pop and is going to be the next best smartphone camera. And yeah, everyone does hope for that, but we're also hoping that other things come along with the camera improvements, because we also hope that AI is going to help with the camera improvements, because it's not just about hardware anymore. It's about which company can make their AI look best and make everything look natural, because people want a natural look whilst colours still be popping. So that is why companies find it so difficult to make their AI models look good, because AI will take something and make it look unrealistic. If we look at Huawei, they used to make their phones look ridiculously unrealistic when they used to take pictures and make you so you could change your face, make it so you could change what was on your face. And yeah, people didn't really like the fact that it was changing your face, making it look different. People want to be recognisable and also to be recognising themselves. Number 6, I also think this links into smartphones, is that the software that is on our smartphones has got very, very normal in terms of when we look at iOS 6 to iOS 7, that was a massive change. And we have had the same looking design from iOS 7 all the way up until now. Now, that is just on iPhones, but that is honestly incredible that people still don't get bored of these designs, and it leans into very much small incremental improvements in the software, making it better, making things more quality of life features. And this is because if we make the software as simple to understand and as simple as possible and the same as possible, bugs and glitches and little inconveniences here and there are less likely to happen each generation. And we've already seen that with every software upgrade we get on Android and on iPhone. Everything just seems to be improving, everything gets a lot smoother, and that's honestly a lot better for everyone. If we look in the Android space, we do find that Android does change quite drastically depending on every different company. But stock Android, I'd say since Android 11, has looked very, very similar. Android 11 brought in some big changes, made everything look a lot nicer, and Android 12 was a massive leap for everyone because this brought in a whole new different design for base Android and also just brought in some nice new incremental features. And since then, Android have just been gradually making things slightly better, making things slightly improved, because it makes the consumer's experience better and it's more likely to keep them on the platform. Now, if we look at things like Samsung and Oppo and, at the time Huawei, they were putting their own skins on top of Android, and that can sometimes cause issues, but it also does make that recognizable for other brands, because if brands have their own skins on their phones, it makes other people think that their phones are different to the others and they are bringing different Android features. Android is very much leading in the smartphone industry, and that's why a lot of people are on Androids, and when they have not very good Androids, it puts the wrong idea in their heads. So if they keep Android simple enough that on the base stock phones, Android actually runs well, then people are more inclined to keep Android as a whole. So that is why you're finding that companies are keeping their software more simple, less buggy, because it means that people are going to stick with them. Number 7 has to be social media. Social media has completely changed the smartphone industry, completely. And that is because everyone wants their pictures to look amazing on social media, their videos to look amazing on social media. Everyone wants to be able to watch social media really well on a nice, good looking screen and a nice big screen. So that is why companies focus a lot on making sure that their app looks amazing on the iPhone. It's because a lot of people use iPhones to film their stuff because Apple release less iPhones every year. It does mean that it makes it easier for app developers to develop for iPhones. Because there's only 4 iPhones that come out each year, it makes it a lot easier for them to optimize their phones for those screens, for those cameras. Whereas compared to Android, it's a bit more difficult because there is a wide spectrum of different phones that come out in that bracket of Android. It makes it difficult for companies to optimize for everything that's coming out. So that is why social media is such a massive part, because it makes people decide what they're going to pick. If you care about social media, the iPhone is still the best one you can get for taking pictures on social media. In my opinion, the iPhone will never be beaten until either Samsung or Google makes a direct deal with all these companies. Because Samsung has made a deal with these companies, but they haven't been involved in it. Because I still think that Samsung don't have the best looking pictures on social media yet, because these app companies still want to focus all their time on iPhone, and tweaking it for Samsung makes it very much more difficult because Samsung use a lot of AI models and they make everything look a lot nicer in post. It makes it more difficult for these companies to add all of that into their app. Number 8 is apps. Now, if we look at the iPhone 2G, that didn't come with an app store. And when we look back on it, that is honestly insane, because the phone back in the day was just a simple thing that we call and text on. Now it is literally something that it is a tool for everything that we do. It's an important part of our lives, and having different apps on our phones makes it more important. We have different messaging apps, we have different games we can play, we have our banking apps, we have different photo apps, we have different emailing apps. All of these things link into our phones, and our phones are hubs for what we do. It's honestly incredible to see what phones have become. Phones have become so powerful that it's honestly unrecognizable from before. We see that phones are now powering every single thing we do, which is honestly incredible when you think about it, that these phones are like computers and are helping us every single day and saving people's lives and making people's livelihood. I mean, look, for example, I'm filming this on an iPhone 14 Pro Max, and the camera quality looks incredible. And I can upload this if I wanted to YouTube directly from my phone. I could edit this directly on my phone if I wanted to, which is honestly incredible to see. These phones become tools and that people can actually use these in their daily lives a lot easier. Small changes on phones have become a lot more common, and that's why a lot of people seem to get everything mixed up with, phones don't tend to do any upgrades, and phone companies aren't innovating anymore. It's just simply not the case. And we have found that when people say this, people always tend to say, if you're on an iPhone 12 and you're thinking of upgrading, get the iPhone 15. But if you're on the previous generation phone, you definitely don't need to upgrade anymore. People honestly are now upgrading every 3 to 4 years, and that's understandable because you tend to notice the smaller changes every time you upgrade to the bigger changes. So for example, if I want an iPhone 10, I'm going to notice the changes from an iPhone 10 to the iPhone 15 Pro more than I'm going to notice them from an iPhone 14 Pro to an iPhone 15 Pro. That just makes more sense to me, and I think for a lot of people that is why they tend to buy phones in a larger time gap now. It's just because people are more likely to notice the changes. And number 10, our smartphones are now tools. They're not just simply phones, and I think calling them phones is actually an understatement to them. They are honestly way more than phones, and it is honestly really cool to see that these phones can now edit, they can now take pictures, they can check emails, they can play games all at one time, process this all in the background, take phone calls, receive music. You know, they can do everything, play music, receive music, send out Bluetooth, receive Bluetooth. And yeah, smartphones are now tools that we use every day in every single bit of our life. So are smartphones boring? No, they definitely aren't boring anymore, and there's still way more stuff that, you know, we can see coming up in the next couple of years. But yeah, smartphones are going to become a bit more of just a product that just sits in the background, that upgrades slowly every year, and just keep us going, keep giving us upgrades in terms of hardware and software. But it doesn't mean that smartphones are boring. They're still very exciting. It's still very exciting to see what smartphone companies can do. But if you did enjoy this video and you did like this new little, you know, area that I'm filming in for the new year, please do like and subscribe. It's been Harry. I'm out. Peace.